philosophize about geek pop culture in a gentlemanly way, drinking a gentleman's drink. And we're here with Malcolm Trotter, the Gentleman Geek himself, his brother Matt Trotter, and myself, Zach Garcia. So today we're going to be drinking Gentleman Jack. And tell us a little bit about this drink, real quick, Malcolm.
So I chose the Gentleman Jack because an interesting article came out this week where they were talking about the beginning of Jack Daniels, and I guess it's the 150-year anniversary of Jack Daniels. Now, I'm not the hugest Jack Daniels drinker, but when I do, I think the Gentleman's Jack is it's a smoother version. You know, Jack Daniels is pretty much something you put Jack and Coke, you mix it, you know, but this is actually something I've sipped on before, and I didn't think thought it was actually pretty good. But what made it even more interesting, right, with this 150th anniversary, is that we found out, which is, I guess they call it an open secret, but a gentleman by the name of Nearest Green, and yeah, man, you start pouring, Nearest Green was a slave, and slave to a gentleman named Don.
This is starting off
Cal.
real good. I like that. This is good.
And he was a distiller. He was he created whiskey. And now, what ended up happening was Jack Daniels, his slave master, had him teach Jack Daniels how to create their whiskey.
Wait. What's the guy's name?
Nearest Green.
Nearest Green's a black guy.
Yes.
He had a master.
His master.
His master told him teach Jack Daniels.
So his master, for all these years, people have always attributed him to teaching Jack Daniels his secret. But it's Nearest Green. It's kind of that thing that you get. The slave master would get the prestige because he owned the person that did it, and not the person that did it getting the rightful. Even to the point, I think that Nearest Green at some point went to work for Jack Daniels. So it wasn't. So I think, and the Jack Daniels family has always said that this was, like I said, an open secret, something that people, if you said something, they acknowledged it, but they still didn't put it out there. And so I guess a year ago they said that they were going to acknowledge this. They were going to, make this something public. They were going to add it to their tour, and it evidently didn't happen soon enough. So there's been people out there that have been trying to get Nearest Green's name out and his story, and now there's distilleries who are making honorary whiskeys in his name, and so I thought it would be good to I always think it's interesting to learn something about history, especially when on this show I always talk about, I feel like when you drink whiskey, you're drinking history, right? So I would want to know the history about this kind of things when I'm going to have.
Before we go a little further, I made the mistake of throwing some water in there and opening it up before I actually got a taste. I got a whiff of it, but I didn't get to taste it without any water. Can I get some of yours, Mel?
Yep, sure.
You know what? I'm gonna try.
This is a secret to get extra alcohol.
Right, I'm gonna hit that too.
Go for it. You do add a little water too.
But
I think we talked about adding water to open the drink up.
So off the top, you get that really astringent alcohol smell.
Oh yeah, it's not.
It's definitely stronger.
It's not an Irish whiskey. Not like the Jameson Black Label.
Again, this is whiskey.
Oh, this is yours, brother.
Bourbon.
Thanks, man.
And it's double mellowed, so I mean it's a lot smoother than I think it would be otherwise.
Flavor wise, it rounds out real nicely though. It doesn't have a strong aftertaste that's off-putting to me.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's a little strong in aftertaste, but I find that it makes for a good daily. I like a good after work drink.
It's so.
Probably not too bad. I haven't added water yet.
It's so oaky that it feels like I'm drinking tree, and I have no problem with that. It's like, man, this is a good tree bark. Like,
so you get some of that. You get an oaky.
Yeah, very, very, very.
I can get that. It's not smoky though. Yeah, there's
no, not smoky. I said oaky, like a tree.
Right.
Right. Like roots.
Yeah.
Speaking of roots. So let's get back. let's get back to Ernest. Ernest?
To Nearest.
Nearest. His name is Nearest?
Nearest, yes.
Nearest, okay. Wow. Nearest. So Jack Daniels never tried to hide this.
But never tried to promote it.
So they're neutral on it.
Yes.
And what is it like? What is the reason? So this is a recent article by Jack Daniels, or it's a recent article by a third party?
So what it was is, I guess, the article that I read, I've read several now in the past week, and one of them was like a black lady, I can't think of her name, when this first was announced.
Third party.
She found out about it, and about a little over a year ago, and so she
From who?
decided
Who'd
to.
she find out about?
I don't know. I'll probably have to look that
Okay.
up. But trying to make a long story short, she flew to Tennessee and went through the tour. Like, she stayed there for weeks. She went through the tour like 3 or 4 times, and there was no mention of this. Even though the company had said there was going to be some updating to this. And with not seeing that, what's interesting is the article's written very, like, she's not upset. Like, she just decided to, like, she kept approaching them like, hey, why? You said you guys were going to address
What did they
this.
say?
They said that what was happening with the last year with the election and the political climate, they didn't want to think that, they didn't want to seem like they were capitalizing on the moment, which that's a good, commercial statement reason to say, and I could see why you might do that, but it also begs the different why this hasn't been said.
Right. How many years has it been? Right.
Like this,
Like this is
wait. Since when? Let's
Right.
wait. This was since they always have.
They've been around 150 years.
Wait, they don't have a sense
So
on
this
here.
guy's dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Long.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
I'm just
so
saying, you know.
so here's the thing. That's a long time. It's a very long time to never have mentioned this at all. They had plenty of chances to do so, and I think it would. Here's the thing. At this point in time, if they came out about it, it would actually help the business. But at the same time, it also will make them look like they're pandering. And like, Malcolm chatted with me about this a little bit before. He mentioned it. I didn't want him to go in full depth when he was talking to me about it because I wanted to talk about it here and just like have natural feelings about it. But I'm kind of on the fence. One, really, I don't drink a lot of Jack Daniels. Just being truthful. This is not bad. But by the way, is it Jack Daniels Honey? Jeez, that'll give you a headache. It's like 6.
This isn't honey.
No, I'm talking about the
that
other one.
stuff's disgusting.
Oh.
That
Hey,
stuff is.
anybody out there? I'm just joking.
If Nearest Green made that, it's disgusting.
He definitely didn't
And
make
he
that.
didn't. He
didn't.
didn't. Nobody drank like that back in the day.
No one drinks that.
No.
No. So what I want to say is I'm on the fence because, and I'm kind of finding myself in a neutral standpoint. It's like in one way, I'm not necessarily extremely upset, but I'm giving them the side eye. Like, really, you could have done this a long time ago. You could have come out with this. I don't think it would have hurt your business. You really don't have they really don't have a reason that they shouldn't have by this point. The other, in terms of promoting it, not necessarily, it's not like they backed away from it. On the other hand, I also am a big, fan of firms not pandering. Like, I'm tired of this pandering that's going on with corporations, and everyone's just pandering to people. And what's kind of sad is that you don't know where the corporation actually really stands with anybody, whether it's the LGBT community or women's rights or minority rights. They just pander to whoever they think they're going to get money from.
Are they all pandering, or are they all trying to kind of make corrections for all these things that have happened in history and try to be on the right side of history in this time?
You know what?
And still make money, because let's face it, everybody wants to make money.
No.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you got to give people and corporations the benefit of the doubt. And then on the other hand, the third portion of it is you go, well, even if somebody who is traditionally or most of their life, they've done very evil things, and this is a question to both of you guys, if they did a good thing in 2017, was that thing a good thing?
Right, finally, saying it's like
I
robbed a
even
bank
if they were
50 years ago, and I finally bring the money back, and
I could still be upset with you, but I'd rather you bring the money back.
right. It's like, thanks, I
so
appreciate you brought it back, but we can't. And then, like, I don't know if there's some kind of limited statute limitation, like where they can't prosecute you. I use like $50,000, but here's the rest of it. And they're like, oh, I appreciate it, man, but we can't do anything. So
we can't
all right,
do
I'm
anything,
good one.
kids. So whatever.
I'm glad they're doing it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
what are you gonna say, Zach?
No, I mean, it's timing wise, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? I think in regards to, I think, I don't know how much noise this woman that you mentioned made about the history of Jack Daniels. I don't know
She actually
how much
started
there
her
is.
own commercial. They started a memorial. They started like a memorial. They started like a museum, and then they started an honorary
Jack Daniels.
distillery. No. This lady did.
So Jack Daniels hasn't done anything.
Jack Daniels has just said that we're going to restore his name to. So when you make whiskey, what I also learned this week and found out is pretty amazing. It shows you that this is like, it's all about history. There's almost like, when it comes to samurais who make blades, there's a master distiller. So the master distiller on the ledger, or whatever you want to call it, is Don Cobb, the slave owner who taught Jack Daniels. He's considered the master distiller. They had to change that because it is really Nearest Green.
They changed that.
Because
They're supposedly have changed. That's why I need to go a little deeper. But supposedly Jack Daniels has acknowledged it, and they're saying they're making the corrections. They're making the corrections. They're going to add it to. So by this time, hopefully, it's been added. Hopefully now, if we all went there tomorrow,
If we go to the website tomorrow,
in our tour.
If we
but
find
think about,
out,
they've been touring people for 150 years, and
Right.
like there's been no mention of this.
if we find out that they have not changed the name, this not on the show ever again.
Let's just say this: there's been a lot of good old boys who probably were in Charlottesville who've been drinking this Jack Daniels, drinking Daniels for years, and they've been drinking stuff that made by black people.
By black men.
You know, so that's it's amazing. I mean, and it's not really about race. What I always think is just interesting is, like I said, history is important. We always talk about our history. Everybody's history is important. All cultures' histories, and like when you find this kind of stuff up, you do want to shout it from the rooftops. So, you want people
really
to know
quickly,
that history gets scrubbed. History goes to the victor. To whoever wins these wars and things like that.
This is true, but do you guys all know Dave Chappelle?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine, and I don't think this is going to happen, but I imagine some like white supremacists watching the show, and I don't know why he's watching the show because there's two black guys on here, but maybe he thinks that I'm like something else.
Because he thinks Zach is white.
And he thinks Zach is white. And he
It's a
looks at
disclaimer.
Malcolm and he thinks like,
man.
this black guy's gonna entertain me, ha ha ha.
But no, you
And
are
then-
white. Is to be in all fairness,
Right.
Yeah,
and then
you are both.
he finds out when we say like a black man is the master distiller of Jack Daniels, and I just see him spitting out his Jack Daniels all over his computer screen, and his head and his white cap, and his head explodes like Dave Chappelle. I just thought of that, like he was saying something really deep, and I just thought of this white guy like, what?
He's like,
What? This is a lie.
I'm drinking vinegar juice. Ah! Vinegar juice.
Gotcha.
Goddamn, no more Jack Daniels. But they'll be like, well, they might have made it, but Jack Daniels perfected it.
Oh man.
All right, well, that's all I got to say about that.
Right, I'm gonna cut you.
Well, so.
No, I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting the fact that Jack decided to embrace their culture and history at this point in time. I think.
That name better be on your website.
Right. And what's his name?
Nearest Green.
Nearest Green. Hey,
So look up at the nearest green
Green.
on your shelves soon, hopefully.
There's even a picture of like his sons, like with the Jack Daniels like workers and stuff. Even his sons worked for them, like
And
So, yeah.
it's just interesting timing wise.
The more you find out.
Right, and today's day and age. I mean, who knows? From like, there was a group of guys around a table talking about this at some point. They're like, this woman is shouting from the rooftops. She's talking. This was a conversation,
Oh yeah,
right?
it's a corporate conversation.
Right.
And so it is a business at the end of the day. So they had to make a decision about this. We're
Right.
going to promote it, whether it be in their tours or just publicly. You know, making a statement about it. It's interesting, and honestly, I would love to have a conversation with the company about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe we could make that happen. I don't know.
Cool.
That would be interesting, right?
That would be great. We would love. Jack Daniels Forever will be a guest of the show. If you come, even if you're racist.
Yeah.
Even if you're racist.
to make it clear, like even in the article that I read, it didn't vilify Jack Daniels. They didn't kind of make them out.
Right.
And I appreciate that the article wasn't trying to. The article could have been pandering. Right?
Could have been pandering to like,
Right.
let's
Like,
round
hey,
up the.
Here's what this lady's saying. Here's what we did. Here's what's interesting about this.
Because we don't really
and when
know.
They talked
We
to
don't know
Jack,
all the details.
and what's good is that the company did step up and say, oh yeah, this has been open knowledge. Long ago, we didn't make it very clear.
Yeah.
We want to make it clear.
And I appreciate
so
that.
it's cool.
And if you guys send over a representative over to our show, you guys will always be a friend of the show, even if
Pandering
you
Jack
are
Daniels,
racist. Pandering. And also.
Also, remember, this is not like something we've had where we've talked about these things of having, like, if you've ever had Famous Amos cookies. That's an actual situation where a company stole
that's like
his entire recipe. This is not the same thing. Jack Daniels, this person actually taught Jack Daniels so that they can create their company. It's just that it's just the credits. It's like the movie and like somebody didn't get the right credits.
And it was knowledge that you can find.
Yes.
So it wasn't like they hid it. It's like they just didn't say anything about it.
Okay. Right.
Well, kudos to Jack. Good job.
Taking a stance on that too.
Yeah, good job. Good job, Jack, for just accepting.
Yeah.
I
hear that.
What's up next?
So Malcolm, I wanted to talk to you about the Run Rally and how you paid homage to Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
And so the first half of the year we paid homage to sort of the beginning films, right?
Run Fast Rally. Yeah.
Run Fast Rally, and now we're doing Run Furious in November. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how you feel doing the sequel to this, finishing up the rest of the year, and how you feel about Fast and Furious in general.
Yeah.
And where it's headed or may not be headed.
Right.
And the direction it's kind of spun into, which is interesting. And I know the diehard purists have their strong opinions about where the franchise is headed, and I just definitely wanted to talk to you guys about that, because for me, Fast and Furious was like one of the movies that just stole my heart from the beginning, got me really into the race culture and just the car scene in general.
Yeah.
And it's moved in a little bit of a different direction, you could say, from the very beginning.
A little bit. Slight lane change.
Yeah. So are you still a fan? What do you think about that?
I mean, the series is almost like a car going from transforming into from road to railroad tracks. It's very different, but I still remember. Part of me wants to still stay connected to the series because I was there at the beginning. I felt some type of way sitting in a movie theater in 2002 that was one of those things where I was invited to this premiere, and just the uproar in the crowd, just seeing those Civics in the first opening shot, going under the truck and the green lights, and it was like I was even in the cars at that moment, but that movie made it go. It made that light bulb go off in my head. I had a little old school Ford Escort. I was a complete racer, bro, but I would embrace that culture with everything in me, and to see a change. I've still been a fan of action movies, so I'm not mad at the action side of it, but I do think that the more I try to, every time I sit in the movie theater, I kind of grimace. I just hold my breath a little bit and hope I'm going to get something just a little bit more than what I'm getting.
So do you think that they're pandering, right, to the action more than the cars at this point in time?
I don't know if I call it. I think it's Hollywood, and they've just Hollywood embraced what it had before. Hollywood didn't know what it had, right? Hollywood had a little cheap movie that they can make. It wasn't going to be super expensive. I don't know how many millions of dollars, but millions of dollars is not multi-million-dollar movies are expensive. So it wasn't. I don't think that was an expensive movie. Almost like a low-budget film. Rob Cohen headed it up, and it was just one of those things where they knew that they could tap into that subculture, but they didn't know what it was going to do. And I think now over the years, as it's grown, they've added other subcultures. They don't just have the street racing culture. They have the female audience on The Rock and Jason Statham. They've got the minority audience on having a diverse cast.
Right.
They've got they've got the female audience on just having badass females like Rochelle Rodriguez, and they've had two UFC fighters. Females take roles in the movie. So the movie's not as much pandering as I think. I think it's a very successful franchise because it actually does something that most movies don't do. Is it addresses something that everybody likes. And I think for the car community, though, it feels like a slight because it changed from where it started.
So I want to jump in and say that I feel the same way as you do. I haven't even seen Fast 8 because I just don't care. But I'm not upset, and what I've gotten to a point of realizing, and even me kind of studying firm practice, good practice, managing a business and things like that. Some of these books that I've been reading on how to manage your own practice, kind of it's been shedding light to me about what it means to just have a successful practice and make money. Right. And making money and having profit and creating revenue is one thing, but expanding your business is a totally different other thing. So what I realize is that for them to have, for their aspirations, there was nothing else they could do other than do what they did.
Mm.
And I get it, like that. Their aspirations, their goals are just different than mine. And so what I would say is that if they continue 8 movies in, being very true to the culture and true to cars and having every action scene about chasing and actually driving the car correctly and demonstrating that accurately, then they would have kept their same audience for the most part, and they would have made money, but they would have kept their same market. When you want to expand your market, you have to add these things that Malcolm is talking about, and it becomes a different movie. And I found myself all these years just keep telling them, walking up and down the stage, this is stupid, I can't believe this, why is this happening? And now that I'm kind of reading about business practices, I'm kind of like, well, yeah, they want to expand their market. Like, I get it. Like, I get it. And they've made a lot of money doing it, and I'm not mad at them for it. But I personally, as a car enthusiast, I don't have to watch it. And I don't. My Fast and Furious series kind of low-key stops at 5. And
okay, I was going to ask that.
It stopped.
Where does yours stop? Where is it over?
And 7, the ending, would stops at, what was 6?
6 is
at the end they're driving the train.
The plane.
Yes.
5 is the.
My Fast and Furious stops at 5 with an addition, a supplementary condition of the ending of Fast 7 where Paul Walker is driving.
Right.
That's it. Anything else that happened doesn't exist in my brain. Just the ending.
So I separate Fast and Furious and Too Fast, Too Furious from everything else. And then they go to Tokyo Drift, right?
Okay.
And then they like jump back in, right? So for me personally, like the feel of 1 and 2 is just completely different from 3 and 4, and then thereafter, personally.
Okay. Yeah.
I feel 1, 3, and 4 are really.
They're cohesive, but.
Wait, you're saying which ones? 1
and 2.
1 and 2 for him are his most closely.
Those are 2, and then that's where you kind of check
out. I think that's what. I think I romanticized the first 2 a little bit too much, maybe. But,
there's nothing wrong with that. I think.
But I think after that, so they jump into Tokyo Drift. And then 4, 5. I definitely think 4, 5 is like more cohesive in terms of storyline with like 1 and 2. But
maybe nostalgia.
Yeah, there's a lot of nostalgia playing into it. I definitely think that, and
I can see that.
And I, to your point, I definitely think that moving into a broader audience, I feel like if they were to keep with 1 and 2, and how do you build on that? If you were to only focus on like the subculture of the racing enthusiast.
So I'd argue against you.
Where do you go from that though? I think there's only so many times you could repeat the same thing.
Right. But I would argue that the person who captured that was, Justin Lin, I think completely, I think it's really slept on how he captures that in 4. I think 1 is true to the culture, and then you have 2 kind of try to, and that's coming from guy who directed Boys in the Hood. I wanted to love it. I still think it's a good movie in a lot of ways. I have a buddy who argues like that it brought the color and it brought the kind of comic bookness to Fast and Furious.
I will never forget the freeway racing scene with the Viper. Cool. And that was cool. That was tight.
It had some cool moments, but I think for me it was a little. It wasn't it was about the culture, but it lost something not truly having Paul Walker and Vin Diesel. And I think Fast and Furious is about those 2 characters, Brian O'Connor and you can't have the movie without those 2. I think I've always romanticized that Brian is the fast and Vin Dom is the furious. You can't have them both with one of them gone. So I think it's interesting that you have the first movie, he's gone. You have Tokyo Drift, which does good, international, just enough. They bring in Justin Lin to come in with 4. 4, we get Vin Diesel and Dom back. And I think that is one of the most real movies where they've grown, they've aged. We see Brian as a FBI agent.
It's
we
serious.
see Dom like running from the law, and then when they both go back. They still do they go in under some cartel, but there's still street racing. There's still several street racings in the movie.
Right.
There's still real cars in the movie. There's some amazing driving in the movie. I mean, the street race through the L.A. with the R32 is amazing. So I don't know, that was all on board for that movie. So for me, I like them all. I think 1 through 6 is my cutoff. 5 was like they brought the team in. That nostalgia feeling of having all those characters you watched all these movies with kind of come together. And then 6 was like, let's finish it. Even if you go back, 6 is the end really, because that's when Justin Lin jumped off the series. He had done a trilogy.
Wow.
And he was like, I'm passing the torch to somebody else.
How many did he do?
Did 3. Well, he did Tokyo Drift, and then he did 4, did 5. So he did 4 movies, but he did 3 with Paul Walker and Vin Diesel.
He did 4 movies?
Yes, that's why nothing's ever felt the same. Because once he passed that torch, that's why 6 starts with an homage. It starts with it comes on like a TV show.
Yeah,
it comes the Wiz Khalifa song, and they go back to the beginning.
They're like,
remember all this good? I'm about to wrap this shit up for you, put it in a box, serve it, and he's like, he does it in a way he's really smart as a director, because he's saying, look, I know what the corporation is about to do with this, but I'm about to put all my love into this and give it away. And I'm going to set it up. I'm going to go big on the end with this big plane, because I know I have to, because that's going to be like, here's the pass off. Here's where it's going. I don't want to be a part of that.
I don't want to be a part of rock bottoming.
Amazing.
like through floors and stomping your feet and breaking parking structures.
It's kind of like the Alien franchise. You remember the first 2, and then
everything after that is like...
But being an Alien fan, every time a new Alien movie comes out,
you gotta watch it.
Gotta go
but
see
you know
it.
what? I did not feel that way about Fast 8. After I saw Fast 7, I was so disgusted in certain ways. I said, I can't.
I was kidding. I should have known after
I took Fast and Furious and I just laid it down.
7 and 8, I sat in the movie theater like, what is going on? Like, the entire time. So, I don't know. Yeah. Uh-oh.
Right.
Let's get us back on track.
You know what? I don't think we ever cheered.
We didn't.
That's so
unacceptable.
I want to take this time out and say I apologize to the viewers. This show is called Gentleman Geek,
and we were not.
Being gentlemen. This is totally inappropriate, and we apologize.
Kind of slipping.
We all slip, and we all make mistakes sometimes. But God is good; He always pick you back up.
Right.
Of course, if you're a viewer and you don't believe in God, and that's also okay.
Salute me, familia.
I appreciate that, man. That little bilingual,
Unfortunately,
guys, look each other in the eyes. You gotta look in the eyes.
Otherwise, I'm terrible with that, by the way. I just never look people in the eyes.
It's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird to be like, and like the eye-hand coordination, and you gotta go for it.
I feel like there's a limit to how many people you do that with.
Oh yeah. You got 10 people, 10 guys.
Like,
you're not gonna go, and people are trying to go across and.
It just gets annoying after a while, unless that one person got to stand up.
Yeah,
I feel like 3 is a good.
Cheers over 3 people is low key kind of annoying.
Yeah. I might just be a lush too. I hate being in a room where somebody's talking and you're just waiting for them to cheers.
Right. By the way, if you cheers with water, that's bad luck.
Yeah, some guy told me that one time. I cheered with water back in the day I worked at a company. He was like, "You're gonna die in plane." I was like, fuck you.
You're like, you can be sitting right next to me. But not going to be sitting right next to me.
Don't tell me that. I was like, don't accept it. That was cool.
So, cheers, brothers.
Cheers.
So what's going on next?
So let's kind of reel it back a little bit. I want to kind of shift gears. We're getting into some deep conversation now. So
okay.
Recently, I was listening to some podcasts, and in one form or another, I've heard a little bit about either a public figure, celebrity, pro athlete, tapping into their alter ego and like their secret identity. So I thought that was an interesting topic, and I want to talk to both of you about this because, to some extent, I know through the Run Rally, there's like an alter ego of Malcolm that comes out, and Matthew, I don't know how you feel about this, but for me personally, from a business standpoint, so the argument is that there's conflicting principles sometimes, or values, where it's like, if I believe in fairness, I might self-sabotage myself in a competitive environment to let someone else win because I feel it makes me feel good. But let's be real, like in business, it's it's a little bit cutthroat. You know, you have to at the end of the day stand your ground, and it's every man for himself. So I've taken on this personally in that I've tried to define my alter ego.
Okay.
And I wanted to see what you guys thought about alter egos and how you might, whether you realize it now or not, how you might use that in your own endeavors and your own life to your advantage.
I remember when you brought this up to me, and I thought it was really interesting, but I'm still like figuring out what I think about that. I think we all have these alter egos that where we use to motivate us, and then but at the same time I feel like I'm still like even creating that. I'm still figuring out what that is. I don't know. I would pass that to Matt first, see what he thinks.
I wouldn't say I necessarily. I mean, if I did have an alter ego, I have a million. Because I grew up with Malcolm buying, you know, Jurassic Park toys, and me buying like Gundam toys and putting them together and watching anime and you know, Malcolm had like five different, you know how there's a million different Batman toys, different versions of Batman. It's Batman. Yeah. There's different versions of him. It's like underwater aqua Batman, and like soaring Batman, like pterodactyl Batman. And you had like, you know, naked Wolverine.
They got real weird with
like weird, like he had like all the cables inside of him, and I think I always retained that memory of like how toys had different versions of themselves, but they were still the same person. And so I make jokes with my friends, Paul, Christian, Kirsten, Malcolm. All of my friends know that I make this joke, and I will say blah 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 Trotter. There's different versions of me, so I'll say Ratchet Trotter. This is tonight. Like shout out
that Ratchet.
Shout out to my boy Russell. When I'm out with him, sometimes he's a very intelligent guy. We're both intelligent people, very bright. But there's sometimes me and Russell want to just go to a really ratchet event, and we'll be like.
The worst I've ever seen him is when
I'm with Russell. Russell brought me.
Drag him. Dead weight, just.
Yeah.
I was like, how did he get? Because I've never been with Matthew where I could never imagine Matthew getting to that point.
I don't get like this anymore, but I was.
Just lay him on the concrete.
I think
just lay him out.
So there's something to be said.
Well, I get back to
you remember this. Anyways, there's Ratchet Trotter. I just sent a picture today because I'm going to Europe. I said this is Travel Trotter, and I posed like an anime figure. I had like heavy backpack wear and like an all black outfit with shorts and a shirt. I showed Malcolm, it was funny. And all these different trotters are I don't see them as something that conflicts with who I am. They're just all a part of who I am. They make me Matthew. And I would say base trotter, like base Goku, has high integrity, is a pretty fair person, but that doesn't mean that the different trotters that I talk about would possibly go against some of those values that I share or that I think I hold dear to my heart at times when I'm in the moment. So Ratchet Trotter may do something, may take an extra shot than Base Trotter would say, hey man, that's not a good idea. But at this point, you know, it's turned into a bit of a shit show. Right. So, you know, I just find it that it's okay to be a human. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to surpass your limit. It's okay to learn and grow. And I think those different versions of ourselves help us find like where our limit is and like, hey, I really don't feel that way about this. I may have been joking.
So I'd argue that you're talking which is interesting. What you're addressing are we all have these different personalities.
Yes.
And these different personalities that help us in different situations, and it's the party version of us. There's a corporate version of me. There's all these different things. But I think what's really interesting, what Zach's kind of bringing up, is who's your alter ego that helps you be successful. And I think everything that you talk about, if you think about a lot of the way if you don't hear it coming through the screen there,
I know
Matthew is everything he does is by this almost like ideology of like a ninja or a certain type of like almost. I would say his alter ego is like this ninja spirit, like this, and it comes from him watching years.
Ninja
for me, watching years of Dragon Ball Z,
samurai, like that discipline,
and so he'll say things or do things, and then every now and then he'll be doing, when he's working out, you can see that his discipline in his mind. Some people are like thinking they're Rocky. You know, some people use that Rocky spirit.
Right.
You know, and I'm not trying to relate this, I guess, to movies, but I guess it's a geek show, so we try to relate. Matthew is going to that Naruto place to do when he's doing architecture, and they're doing jitsu on the TV screen. Matthew's doing jitsus with the math, like, I'm gonna get this.
Right.
So his alter ego is connected to that. So yeah, it's interesting. What do you think? I want to know what's your, because I always see you're very smooth, mellow, like, I don't see you shake things up, but I know that inside when we're talking and when the wheels are turning, I know that you know how to shift gears. And it's not always as apparent. When me and him we emote it.
Yes.
What's your alter ego?
So I think almost as like a personal, not a personal preference, but I definitely think that I'm a little bit more, I try to be a little bit more seamless in terms of like how I switch on one thing and switch on off another, you know. I think that no matter what, whether we're talking about being the version of ourselves that turns up for a party or whatever, right? In one way or another, we're trying to be something other than our necessarily normal selves to accomplish a certain goal. Whether we're trying to be the life of the party, we're trying to have more fun, we're trying to emote a certain persona that helps us achieve a certain goal.
Yeah.
And for myself personally, I think that I am maybe a little bit more low-key about advertising, you know, like party Zach.
But who is?
Like
But who is?
Zach.
See, and here's the thing. Again, here's what
I think I kind of disagree
arguing.
with all of you guys. Is that I think that I don't know if I really have. I attribute an alter ego to something that is somewhat an opposite, another side of the coin, and I don't think
an alter ego. See, I think we're missing. I think we're talking. You're talking about a personality trait. You're talking. An alter ego is David Bowie and Ziggy Stardust.
And
an
I
alter is Beyonce and Sasha Fierce.
I don't think
Ziggy Stardust was an alien from another world, and that's something that David Bowie allowed himself to express. It's maybe the Kanye and Black Skinhead. It's like that.
But
different.
see now, like what I don't think we would have. I don't see.
So
having one.
I think I have one, but I don't.
Because
think,
it's not
unlike
it's
a musician. I don't express it. So I don't. So for me, I always feel like
maybe I gotta think about it more.
It has something to do with. I've always. It's like when the word savage started being thrown around. It baffled me for a second being older. I'm 37 years old. It's a younger generation term, and I heard people go, "Oh, that's savage." First thing I hear when I hear savage, I would appropriate that with like something very derogatory about cultures. You know, when I hear savage, I see skin color, and I see pygmy people. But that could be my conditioning.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I see barbarians versus the Romans. Those are both Caucasian.
And that's because
I see a society
older,
saying that's kind of what we're saying. Okay. But that's a savage versus. And if you think about what we're saying when you're saying that's savage, you're saying you're doing something that's uncivilized, and we're gonna give you a pat. Like we're like, oh, that is savage. That is uncivilized.
Right.
And so I had to embrace that term, but inside I've always known my version of savage is this. When people always ask me what's your spirit animal or I always say it's a wolf. Now that sounds cliche as fuck. Everybody says, oh, I'm a wolf or I'm a tiger.
I feel the same.
But
really? Is that yours?
A wolf, yes.
Me too.
It's because I feel like I live in a day and age where to be a man, I've always been taught. My dad taught me to be that's what a lot of what we're talking about is being a gentleman. It's just being proper and being able to handle yourself in multiple situations. But inside, I know that, and I'm talking about this not culturally, just biologically, the way we're built as men. There's this thing that I'm constantly checking that doesn't get to just run amok, and it's that wolf.
Wow.
And so my alter ego that's why I've always loved werewolves. I've always loved vampires, but I love werewolves more because vampires were a little bit too posh. They were too clean. Like the wolf was embracing what he came from, but he could still be human. He could walk in human form. So I have always thought like what I am is this like wolf in a tuxedo. Like so when I'm like really trying to get through things at work, I don't know what he's called, but I imagine I sometimes see this wolf in a tuxedo.
Okay.
When I'm working on things with a run rally and I'm really trying to make shit happen, and it's down to the wire. I'm that wolf in a tuxedo. I'm going to make this
Okay.
happen. So I'm going to take the best of my savagery, and,
Right.
and I'm still going to be a gentleman at the same time. And so that's my alter ego. I don't know what it's called, or it doesn't have a name.
I think
but
that's
it is
interesting because
It's not my turn.
I identify with being a wolf as well, but not for the same reasons. So it's like we're brothers, so we're like kind of cut from the
Right.
same cloth.
Yeah.
And if you know me, and Zach, you probably picked up on this, is that I'm a social butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
And in the day, and I'm a social butterfly, and I have a bunch of people that I know and people who know me, and I'm like, oh, Matt's, he's funny, he's gonna make jokes, he's a cool guy, he's pretty nice, but for the most part, there's this other side of me that just kind of walks away from all of that, and Malcolm, no, he lives with me. I walk in the door and I solemnly just kind of walk up into my room and I close the door and I'm just by myself most of the time. When people see me, I think they have this idea that I'm around people all the time, but I'm not. I really am not, and I find myself. I feel like I'm very much a lone wolf,
Yeah.
and I will literally go and do pretty much everything and anything on my own.
Yeah.
In terms of accomplishing my goals. But when I want to have fun with people,
We both are very similar.
when I want to have fun with when I want to have fun, I do it with people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this interesting thing that I don't know which one. And now that you've brought that out, I don't know which one is the real me.
A lot of times you're seeing the same thing with me. You come home, Matthew sees me just
Yeah.
kind of like focus on something, and he may want to tell me a story, and it seems like I'm not engaging, or I don't. But it's really that I'm not. Well, I like being social, but I'm also forced to be the social butterfly all day. I'm
Right.
forced to talk to people all day.
Yes,
in sales.
I'm doing it all
And
day.
so by the time I get home, I'm ready to return to my cave and just kind of. And it's interesting. It's interesting when you say that, because I know a lot of friends of mine who just cannot be alone, and I actually like to be alone. I need my alone time sometimes.
Yeah.
It's where my best ideas come from. It's where I sulk. It's where I think. It's where I get emotional. It's where I find what moves I need to make. It's where, because there's radio waves traveling through the air all the time. There's the TV's on. There's the phone never stops buzzing, and we don't. And I mean, I'm with my lady all the time. It's like I need those moments
Right.
to just still be who I am, to stay
Right.
focused. Who am I?
Right.
I can see how people lose themselves all the
Right.
time in
No.
this day and age.
To that end, I found that my most fulfilling moments have been when I'm by myself.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I-
that's when you learn the most, I feel.
right, and I've taken trips on my own, by myself, knowing no one, wherever I'm going, it doesn't matter. But I feel like that's always the most rewarding experience, is forcing myself to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And not knowing anyone else around me, being unfamiliar, being uncomfortable, and I just feel like that's where self-discovery happens.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And that's when I have the most fun too.
Yeah.
People are always wanting to take trips with you, and that's like, it's fun to have friends with you and to go places with them, but
Yeah.
I feel like where I'm the best version of me is when I'm on my own.
I think so too.
By myself, and I go to lunch by myself. I during the work week, I go travel places by myself. I think I revel in the focus of being on my own, and for me personally, I think that does more characteristically in terms of developing my sense of self than anything else.
Yeah.
I feel like when you're traveling with someone else or you're hanging out with someone else, you confine yourself to a conversation, to an engagement with someone that you're already familiar with, but you shut yourself off from everything else around you.
Yeah.
And sensory wise, perception wise, I feel like you get a lot more about being on your own.
Yeah.
That's me personally.
I even heard arguments that no matter what we do, we are still doing everything alone because we're doing it inside of our own heads. So, but that's neither here nor there.
But sometimes though so I agree with that.
Yeah.
But sometimes though.
I'm not saying that's even.
But when we're on our own, we're not trying to mold to someone else's
Exactly. I agree
perception of ourselves or to someone else's form. And so I took a trip to the Pacific Northwest, and I put myself in this scenario of I don't know anyone here.
That's scary.
Yeah, it could be.
I mean, I'm saying I'm actually committed. That's pretty cool.
But I've had more interesting conversations,
right,
more interesting experiences, adventures on my own than I've had with anyone else.
I agree.
And so there's something to be said about that. You know?
That's pretty interesting. There was something that you said to spark it, and it fluttered away just as much. God damn it, Gentleman's Jack.
Gentleman's Jack. Let me tell you.
Good job.
Take a look at this. Take a look at this bottle right now.
Good job, Nearest. You did a good job.
It was something about just kind of going off of what you were saying about being. Oh, here's what it is. So the torturous part of this whole thing and what we're talking about, we've all just agreed that we have some of the most best fulfillment, being alone. You have these aha moments. But Matthew can probably attest to this. The problem that I have is I spend this time alone. And I think it's probably the reason why I do the run rally.
Then you want to share it.
Suddenly I have this. You hear a song and you're like, oh my God, I'm by myself.
And you're crying.
I'm getting this chills and I'm feeling this.
This is amazing.
And then you want to share it. And something about life that just doesn't translate right is that the minute you share it, it's not the same anymore.
No.
I go to the movie by myself. And people go, why would you go to this most depressing? It's not. I have the most amazing, I really connect. Because it's not, the girlfriend's not on your arm, the friend is not, you're not thinking about what they think about it. It's you're just there and you're engaged and you're caught. And then it's over. I had an amazing experience with the third Transformer movie of all things. I hate Michael Bay movies, are terrible, but there was this moment where Bumblebee was flying down the street with the music was and it was just and I was feeling it, I got caught up in being a kid, and there was nobody else to keep me from being a kid, nobody to anchor me. So I was lost, and I just found myself kind of moving forward. And then at that moment, that aha moment, I'm like, oh, I want to share this with somebody. But there was no one to share it with. And so that's that strange thing about being a creative too. You have these aha moments. You're like, I have to share it, and then you try to share it, or you put it out there in space, and people are like, it's cool.
Right. Or you share it with the right people.
Or you share it with the right person.
And so, it's even more amazing.
Yeah.
If me and Malcolm are watching a movie.
Yeah.
The same movie that I was it turns into a ridiculous,
we do that with each other.
It's just.
Who's your anchor person? Who's the person that you, every time you share something, they're like, do you have a person?
Yes,
Ozzy. No, to give Ozzy credit, he always understands where I'm coming from.
Ozzy,
But Ozzy is a partner of the Run Rally. Shout out to automobileuploads.com, AMU. Amazing photography, amazing car scene coverage, very down to earth, very creative guy too.
Okay,
but I'm the crazy. He's the kind of sane.
Right.
Christian, if I share it with him, it is like you. It's always ridiculous, no matter what I say, or what we do. Christian's always amped.
Yeah.
He's always yes. The two other people. My friend, let me see. I can't think. Paul never reveals the excitement because it's just his personality.
Yeah, he keeps.
But he acknowledges it in a different way.
Yeah.
So you'll be and then this happened, and then boom, you're playing the song. He's yeah, man.
That's amazing.
That's cool. That's amazing. That's cool, brother. I mean, I'm proud of you.
And he's probably acknowledging the same thing, but because you're not getting the same reaction, you think something's wrong. Right?
We have to remember as creatives and people who we have to remember that everybody's different.
Yeah.
And everyone responds to emotions differently. And so it took me a long time to realize that Paul was excited about certain things that I was saying. He just was expressing it differently. Yeah. And I think
we're
people,
super emo though.
We're so
not
emotional. We're emotional. We're emotional guys. And in one moment where I'll be crying at hearing these strings on a track, somebody else is like, "That's good. That's really good." Yeah. And I'm tears, and then I look at them, and because they're not crying, it makes me upset. I'm well, why aren't you crying? And like, I thought it was great. I said it was good. It's like, no, tell me more.
You didn't feel goosebumps?
You
didn't get
didn't.
chills? You didn't...
By the way, Malcolm actually...
Oh, the article, yeah.
You actually told me about...
There's an article online, you can Google it, everybody, but it says, I don't know what the percentage, I'm probably going to bastardize this, but it's something like only 30%, only 40% of people they've done this study get like goosebumps when they hear music or get chills.
Here, all this
Only
time,
30%.
Only.
this whole
So
time,
that means
I was
there's all these
condemning people. Like, how could you not
so
do
when
this?
I read it, I walked around the office, I asked a couple people in the office, I was like, have you, and I don't want to take names, but I asked a few people, like, asked one of the young ladies who was sitting next to me, I was like, when you listen to music, do you ever just get like, it's like rolling chills, your hair stand up?
Right.
She's like, not really, even to my favorite songs.
So do we all feel
And
this?
I was like,
So,
whoa.
I feel that way.
Yep.
I've had, so it creeps up from the
Yeah,
back of your
It's like
head.
it shoots down your
It-
arm. You're like,
it grabs onto your
it's intense.
To put it in
Oh,
geek
right.
term, it's a Dragon Ball Z film.
Yeah,
No.
yeah. You're like, oh, it's about to happen.
like
Is it called a skingasm?
It's like, they were calling it skingasm
Okay.
in this article.
That's kind of
I'm
like,
not sure it's a scientific
okay,
term.
all right. You guys came up with that, like that's what you're
So
Yeah.
biologically, your serotonin receptors are like going wild, right?
Right.
And that's how I
Okay,
feel.
so he understands the
So
science.
no,
Tell us more.
I've been driving. This
Driving's the best.
this
of that.
happens mostly when I'm driving, right? When I'm driving and I actually see the hair stand up on my arms.
Oh,
and,
I've never actually looked at it.
and I can feel it on my neck. And,
If you look at it,
and
I've never seen that.
the top of my head, right?
It's like, but yeah.
Just gets buzzy and just like it just grips you in a way that you've never experienced.
Do you
before.
cry a lot?
I've been yeah.
I get
I think it's fair to
teary-eyed
say-
to music.
I think
I
I
get
think that-
teary-eyed.
And it's not even an
just
emotional
like-
song. It doesn't have to be music. So
No.
I was driving
It
home
could
last
be
night. I was on like the 118 and I'm
ridiculous.
flying. I'm hitting like just, and I'm not trying to. It's not about going speed. I'm thinking I was going decent speed, like 80, 85, maybe 90 top speed. And I'm just cruising home. It's kind of late. Went on my buddy last night. Went to hot import night. Shout out to Will. Went to hot import nights. Got some ramen hood. Shout out to ramen hood. That spicy ramen.
Oof,
Had
ramen
me.
hood.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
They got those vegan
So-
options though.
Oh, they have some vegan. I didn't try them, but they have some vegan options.
I know.
I definitely paid for it. I felt
Better
like
than
shit
plug.
today. Yeah, I mean, whenever I eat ramen, my body shuts down. Like, I mean, as it should. You're eating pork, tons of saturated, tons of just fat, broth,
Right,
and
right.
tons of sodium. The sodium levels are just, I was so
That
dehydrated.
MSG, huh?
And don't you normally go get ramen after you've been drinking all night? So I was just, you're done, I'm done for. So, yeah, I wake up, I mean, no hangover, but just feeling crappy. Worked out on it. But driving home, I was listening to KCRW. That's one of the stations you can really find something like me. He's doing jitsu, see? You see him catching those jitsus?
It's Jack.
So-
It got to be.
Jack
Gentleman Jack.
Jack in the
Gentleman
jitsus.
Jack, right now.
Jack Jutsu.
So I'm just driving. I'm just listening to this, and it was just heavy beats, and it was very kind of drum and bass, but it wasn't your standard because they always play like more of an eclectic sound, and
Right.
there was some notes in there, and I just felt it. I was like, man, and I was like, and I just get emotional for a little bit, and I'm just
too.
driving in there, and like, wait, I'm getting the chills. And this story's been like going anywhere other than us explaining that yes, there's this moment my eyes are kind of watering, but nothing in the song was sad. And that's another thing I don't like about today's society.
Yeah.
People tell me like, why are you crying? Like, why is it like crying
No,
or getting?
we cry out of joy.
Joy. There's a thing of like
Joy.
having your eyes actually. If you I think maybe people have conditioned themselves to like that's only for being sad.
Being
I guess.
sad.
But there's these moments when I feel
Stop it.
happy. When I feel my happiest, my eyes water.
Yeah.
When I'm in joy, when I'm at like
Yeah.
my favorite concert, my eyes water because I'm experiencing the moment. I'm overjoyed with it, and it's gonna pour out of me.
That is what
So-
overjoy means. Like,
Right,
like
right.
we have to start looking at the
Like,
dictionary.
your cup runneth over. Like
Yeah,
you know, like that.
Like people say, like, oh, it was hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what hilarious means?
Right,
I mean,
right.
hilarity. I mean, it's got to be like
Yeah.
top bar. So overjoy means that literally your cup is running over.
Right.
You're so happy. You're so excited. And for people to act like, they've never cried
Yeah.
because they were happy. I mean, think about when you're at a wedding or when you're, you got your newborn is coming to the world, and that's the joy we're talking about. But what's weird about me and Malcolm, and possibly even you, is that people like us, probably at 30, 40, we're more susceptible to that joy.
Yeah.
And sorry guys, for all you cynics, I mean, we just live a life of happiness.
Now, not to change something, but to even go deeper, I also feel like because we're kind of this is just kind of sound like we're like shit on people. Like we're just happy.
Because
We're happy.
everybody's happy.
Like when you think about it, I also feel like because I'm content with life a lot,
Mm.
I also use things that people think they're really dark. I think I have like a little Tim Burton in me. I use those dark things to fuel my those are the things that like also make me very content. Like I watch a lot, I listen to a lot of dark music. Like even my Jennifer will be like, that sounds so depressing, and I'm like, really? You hear depression? I'm hearing like motivation. I'm hearing
everything's everything's
else.
motivation.
So I don't know about
For
you.
people like me and Malcolm, everything's motivation.
So feeling the highest of highs. Are there days though that you feel the lowest?
Oh, the lows are great.
They're called Monday mornings.
Right.
No, but when I feel, but here's the
I
thing.
hope nobody from work is
How do you spend it?
watching.
So my thing is like when I get to the lowest of my low, it is intense. But what's ridiculous is because I'm the person that I am. I accept it, and I'm happy to have it. I'm more than actually happy to have it. Sometimes I listen to songs to get sad.
Mm-hmm.
Just to let it out, just to I will go find if I haven't been sad in a while, I will listen to a song and literally go find the depths and crevices before it gets really bad and find the sadness and pull those curtains back and go, oh, there you are, little Matt. I tend to think of my brain maybe a little revealing how crazy I am. But I like to see my brain is that there's a lot of different Matthews. And when we're talking about not alter egos, but different personality traits, and there's a bunch of different Matthews. There's one Matthew at the control center, and he's trying to take care of everything. He's being very logical about everything. There's another Matthew crying all the time about bullshit. And
emo Matt.
The emo Matt. And then
I see the
like,
side swept hair real quick.
It's just like this, like all the time. Like there's
That's an anime character.
That's an anime character. And then there's
I see
another Matthew that is always angry and upset because, and this is actually kind of getting deep and revealing a little bit a bit of me, is he's always upset because people didn't thank him enough or people didn't do right by him, because there's another Matthew that is always trying to do good stuff. And that is the prevailing Matthew.
Right.
The prevailing Matthew is always trying to do the right thing. What comes with that are these other things that are kind of the opposites. And so what I try to do is I'm always trying to address myself. I'm always trying to look at myself and go, what can I do better? With people like us, is that with like people who become overjoyed with a lot of things, I think another similar trait is that it doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that we don't wrong anybody. It just means that we're always looking within and going, dang, I really messed up today. Oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Or, you know what I mean? Like always reflecting.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, I'm always reflecting, and whatever someone may think of me and go, well, Matthew, you're an asshole, or Matthew, you're this or that. It's like, yeah, I already thought about that. And I already feel bad about it. And I'm accepting to hear your what you want to say to me because I've been thinking about it. Right. And it touches back on listening to the music and then really trying to find what the song is about and really trying to see how that reflects on my life is where you get these either chill sessions, crying sessions, or so to answer your question, when I hit that low, I'm always thinking about how I can be better.
Right.
So I hit the low for a moment and I just ride it back up to the top. So I get these really high peaks and they plateau a lot, and then the low peaks just shoot right back up.
Right. But when they're low though.
Oh,
right?
they're bad. Yeah. I mean, they're bad, but they may last a night, or they start to do this, and they shoot back up.
I think it's interesting that what Matt said. Oh, go ahead. It seems like there's like a lot of understanding, which I don't think a lot of people understand, is how to. We're all like you regulate every part of your life. You have to regulate your lows. You have to regulate your highs.
I think we're very self-aware.
Yeah.
That's all it is. We're not different. I like that you said that because it sounded like we're going along this like road of like, well, we're different and we're superheroes.
No, yeah.
Even though I do like this because I watch anime and because I think like that, I'm always trying to level up, right? And like what you said is that all it takes for you to get to a place like that, it doesn't mean that you don't hit lows. It doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't hit walls or you don't cry or you don't get you're upset. Is that you're self-aware and you're able turn it right back around as fast as possible. That's what life is about.
Right.
It's
We've
how-
got a guest.
And I think self-awareness is super important, and for anyone listening, I mean, if you have the opportunity to really read up on like self-awareness and how to develop that, like that's the key.
That's deep. That is.
I feel like that's the key. I mean, to behave one way or the other is like one thing, right? But like to be aware of that shift.
And what does
is
it
like
mean for it to, just to kind of tie it back in? What I think that's what it means to be a gentleman. That's what it means to be a
Right.
man.
Yeah.
Is to be self-aware.
Right.
And I'm gonna touch on this really quick, and maybe this is not the right time. Maybe there's another time to do this. But the environment that we're in right now is in. There's a big movement with minorities, with we've talked about with earlier about how corporations are pandering, and what they're pandering is to this strong movement of acceptance, whether you're gay, whether you're transgender, whether you're a woman, whether you're a minority. We're in a day and age where we're in a strong movement to accept people for who they are. And when I think about self-awareness, I recently had a woman in the design industry, as I work in architecture, and she was just kind of talking about how her experiences, and she was kind of pushing that on me. And in that moment, I found myself trying to fight, right? I'm trying to say, well, I'm not like this. And I realized what I had to do is just accept it.
Mm-hmm.
Be very self-aware and just accept it. This woman is a part of a gender that has been being destroyed and attacked for like ages, since the beginning of time. Here I am, a man, a part of the side that has been oppressing her, even though I personally am not oppressing, and I'm different, and I'm actually uplifting. I have to accept it. She may not know everything about me, but I have to accept it and take it. And take the punches. And then after taking the punches, then kindly offer my point of view. I think it's something that all men need to do. I think it's a good thing that we say that on Gentleman, on this Gentleman show. And it's also a way how even I feel like anyone who feels they're being wrongly persecuted.
Right.
It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's race, whether it's like how someone perceives you at the workplace. If you look at the average white person that just feels like, man, minorities are always talking about like all the wrong that I'm not that.
Right.
What you got to do is take a breath for a second and really understand. It talks about, and it goes back to like listening to the music, watching the film, and really take it in.
Yeah.
And go, I accept it. Bring it on.
Right.
Let me accept it, and then reflect, and then talk about how you may be different.
So I want to say something about that, but we probably should start wrapping up to get to
Yeah,
our last 5 minute sections.
Yeah.
But I do want to say, what did you have?
Yes, Zach seemed like he
Zach?
had.
No, I just want to say, like, being a gentleman, you know, I know we're very progressive, and we're looking in the future toward, you know, now and going forward to making more, you know, equality across, like, across arguments and all that. So I wanted to ask you, you know, I think being a gentleman, do you feel like that will ever die? And I feel like being a gentleman is not about resurrecting what once was. But I feel like being a gentleman is about. I honestly, I feel like, from my perspective, being a gentleman, I feel like it's not, I'm not to say it's a women's world, but I feel like women, there's something so special about them,
Mm-hmm.
more so than men. I give them a little bit more credit than I give myself as a man.
Okay.
I just feel like being a gentleman means not going back to, chivalry is not dead, like that's overused a little bit maybe. But I feel like it's not just trying to resurrect old practices, right? Like opening the door for a woman, right? I feel like being a gentleman is more of respecting the other sex.
And respecting who they want to be.
Right.
Whatever you want to do is fine.
Right.
Well,
And I think that being a gentleman is really understanding and appreciating like a woman and their place. And I'm curious to know, like, I think I battle with this all the time.
Okay.
Being a gentleman, and I don't think it's trying to bring back something that once was.
Not at all.
Necessarily. I think that anyone that classifies, like, that says like it's a woman's world or it's like a man's world or whatever, I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
I just think that it's everyone's part, everyone's role to make everyone feel appreciated, understood. And I think we're kind of like trying to like jump out of being a man's world and like being like everyone's world, right? But like
We're so nice to each other. I want to at some point get to
Tell
the
me.
point where I can jump
Come on.
in the conversation.
Jump in.
No, I can't. No, I'm actually saying I actually agree with you.
Right.
If I actually didn't agree with you, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Show button this shit and just be like, no, that's not what it is. But we haven't had that conversation yet, so no, I agree with you.
Right.
I'm actually saying I wish I could be in conflict.
Yeah.
This is
But I
a
agree.
first.
But here's
This is a first. By the way,
Here's-
to the viewers, this is a first Malcolm has. Well,
well, first I've what?
more or less, you've agreed with me.
I always agree with you, Zach. Okay.
This is
I'm
good.
not gonna argue
Now
with
I
that.
almost got there.
So here's the
Let's go.
thing. I
Let's
actually
go.
agree with you, but here's where I do see a difference. To be a gentleman, what I think is a gentleman, and I think that, like I said, the way I embody, me and my buddy James, we talk about this all the time, where I take words from the past and I reappropriate them. I think that's something that's kind of part of our culture, and where you take things, you go, this means this now. So, like, to be a gentleman is less about, I do think it embodies respecting the opposite sex. I think it embodies being a person who is of acceptance. But I think being a gentleman is less about me. When I say that Gentleman Geek is less about opening doors for women and being this old-fashioned, old-timey guy.
Right.
It's more about caring about oneself as a man and respecting yourself. And when men respect themselves, when you actually care, it's like having, everybody's like, if you have pride about being a man, you'll treat everybody correctly. And so I do feel like Matt was talking about parenting, there's a lot going on in the world that sometimes makes you feel like shit to be a man. Which I feel like there's a lot of white people sitting at home like, fuck. Every time I turn on the news, why do I feel like the bad guy? But what I realize is you just, like Matthew said, you have to be quiet, you have to let it happen, because you're right. You really hit the nail on the head, Matthew, in that, I'm trying to not be all over the place from the Gentleman Jack, but it's like, no, it's literally from this idea that I always believe, like, it's kind of this common, it's like you reap what you sow. And sometimes I believe that even our cultures are reaping what they sow. And I'm reaping, so for example, me being a man, if you're a white man, you're reaping from forefathers what they sowed hundreds and hundreds of years ago. If you're a man, you're reaping what you sowed since we were biologically came out of the cave. We're all reaping something. So when women, I'm talking to ladies at the office and they're feeling a certain way, whether I disagree or not on certain issues, I go, I understand. However I feel as a man right now, and that feeling of, oh my God, this is all in me, I have to go, no, that's not me. It's okay. But I just have to be accepting of how they feel and understand that this is and it takes these progressive movements. I'm sure, like we were talking about during civil rights, I'm sure there were companies that jumped on the civil rights bandwagon. I was telling that earlier, and maybe they were pandering, but they helped push things forward, and now things are a lot better than they were. So I have to be a part of this part of history and accept that. I have to but I also have to tell people this whole thing about being a man is not always as fair as people think. Like when I watch Mad Men, I think a lot of people watch shows like that. There's these kind of like good old days, right? Like it's kind of this those were the times when men slapped their secretary in the ass and had a drink in the office. But I wasn't that guy. So, and not to make this a race thing. I mean, this is going to be the race episode kind of. But you think about when you watch that show, you watch Mad Men. I wish I could be John Draper, not because of his culture or his class. It's what he identifies as American. You want to be the best. It's not what he's doing as a man. It's not this show. It's not the misogyny. It's the fact that you romanticize about him having that power. But if you watch the show, there's no black man in the show with that power because that's history. It's the black. I always tell. It's a joke I always tell when we're having drinks and people start talking about Mad Men. Oh, this is such an amazing show. It's such crazy fun stuff. And I go, well, if you think about it, when they bring up like about that time, I go, well, it's not the greatest time because I'm that guy that pushed the elevator for Don Draper. How you doing, boss? So you're going to the top floor. So, and I guess I'm relating that back to women and women's rights. Sometimes they look at men, and it's not all. This is not just. But at the same time, being a man is part of that. I still have to be like, you know what? Yeah, that was my species. That was my sex.
And also,
but even I was under a class system dealing with that.
So you're trying to fit into that mold a little bit.
Yeah.
As is Don Draper, right?
Yeah, maybe.
And I just want to follow up and just add that when you said a gentleman is I open doors for women because I respect them so much. And I think if you're a heterosexual male and you tend to look at women like that is what I want. This is the desire of my heart. And I think for a heterosexual woman, she looks at men and says, "This is the desire of my heart. This is what I want." So if we were both to approach the situation as I honor you and you honor me, then we don't have any problems. But what I do believe. And some feminists may say that's not right, but this is my personal belief, and I don't care what you say. I think it's the man's job, and as a gentleman, and as a respecter of women, for him to do it first. Like I truly believe, this is my own personal belief, that it is the man's job to step forward and to respect her first. No matter what is happening, if she is yelling at you, if she's arguing with you, what it means to be a gentleman is to say, okay, is to not always have to win.
Exactly, absolutely.
And I think if you really know what the real goal is in any conversation, any argument, doesn't matter who you're talking to, any gender, the goal of the conversation, if you want to be on the same page, that's the real win. Is when you guys both win.
Yeah.
So if you have foresight of that, you realize that arguing and trying to win the conversation by using your power as a man, and as men we have to recognize, a gentleman recognizes the power that he wields.
Yeah.
He knows that he's bigger typically than the woman. He knows he's stronger typically, and I think what weak men do is use that. The gentleman doesn't use that. He knows he has it, and he never uses that card. And he actually humbles himself in front of the woman. And I believe that when the woman sees the man, who is this bigger figure, typically, or whatever, right? She sees that person as she's kind of talking to him, humble himself. She goes, "Oh, okay. Well, maybe I don't have to fight him now.
Let me hear some of your,
Let me hear him out." So I really think being a gentleman is really about being humble. It's also about understanding people and accepting people, whether they're women or men, and walking in life with self-respect. I think those three things are great. Self-respect first, because you got to take care of yourself first.
Being a gentleman is being a wolf in a suit.
Being a wolf in a suit.
Understand, you know how to control your sandwich.
That's true.
You know how to talk to somebody.
Yeah,
you know how to move
that's
things
exactly
forward.
right. Hey, right here.
But at the end of the day, if it ever needs to go there, you're ready to use it.
Yeah, if it's ever
but you don't. You shouldn't have to ever go there. Every
you
other
shouldn't really have to ever have to
before
fight
the things come out
or kill.
Yeah. So
back
to Zach.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Cheers. That was good.
Yeah.
I didn't make eye contact with everyone, by the way.
So where we at?
We're almost done with this. So
talk about the Game of Thrones real quick.
Let's make it quick.
Completely.
Oh yeah, because we're almost running out of town.
Yeah, Jon Snow's clique is a good old-fashioned D&D party. Like,
Well,
so let me set the context for this real quick. Malcolm runs like a D&D.
I play D&D.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Right out. Like I have a group
it.
that plays once a month, and man, I hide it from some people. I don't hide it, but
This
it's
shows
not
you-
something that you bring up all the time because people don't necessarily understand
This
that.
is how much
D&D
Jack I've drunk. I said he admitted.
He admitted.
He admitted. That's
No,
ridiculous.
I find Dungeons and Dragons to be a great way to experiment with my imagination, and I typically find that the more I play the game, this sentence, unfortunately, not to loop this back to Fast and Furious, but Vin Diesel has actually said this about him playing D&D back in the game, that it helped his acting. That's
Really?
actually a bad promotion of
I didn't
D&D
know
because it
about
didn't
that.
really help his acting. But yeah, he talks about playing D&D when he was a kid, and that does make a lot
That
of
means
sense.
that he was worse. But keep going.
Right, I know, but it really is a great way. As I consider
He's
myself.
looking at you, Vin Diesel. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
consider myself in the rally of
You're a
storyteller.
friend of the show.
And so what I'm trying to do
Yeah.
with D&D is tell a story. And
Right.
and through that gaming session, that hour or 3 hours with friends over beer and pretzels and just kind of shooting the shit and having fun, I learn a lot about what works and what doesn't work when I'm trying to tell a story to people. So, and try to get them to immerse, because when you're watching a movie, it's different from when you're trying to get people to immerse themselves in your world. And so I just think it's this amazing exercise. I find it a lot of fun. I am a geek from that nature. I also grew up in that world where D&D was considered. We grew up in that very religious household. Not well, it's like that. It was not gonna say I don't consider it religious, but we're Christians. But like there was a time where religion was like really big on saying this is bad. This is Halo. You kids shouldn't play video games. You kids shouldn't play Dungeons and Dragons. You shouldn't listen to that music because that's gonna make them devil worshippers. And so I think there was a part of me that was like, really? It looks like it's just a game to me. But like I grew up in an era where like they said kids killed their parents because they played Dungeons and Dragons. But when I became older and I was like, shit, this is what it's almost like rappers when basketball players or rappers make that first check, they go buy what they wanted when they were a kid. So I think in a strange way, as an adult, I went back and I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I found it to be an amazing game. So as I digress, I realized where we're at. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, this is what makes me mad about fantasy people. Hey, I hate to say this, but I feel like all the Harry Potter fans, all the Game of Thrones fans, they're fake to me in a way. I'm probably putting this out there for people, my coworkers are going to think.
So explain that a little bit.
They're not fake, but here's the thing. They're actually not fake. It's something I feel inside because these are the same people that didn't grow up with this. A lot of the people that I talk to don't have a fantasy quote-unquote background. They love Game of Thrones.
That you talk to, though.
That I talk to.
Right.
It doesn't mean that and so it's interesting to hear people when I'm talking about D&D or I'm talking about this goes back to where we're talking about Christian Bale last week in the rubber suit in our first episode, is the fact that somebody can be like kind of you feel a little belittled. You know that look people give you when they go, you play D&D, really?
Right.
And I'm like, but you watch Game of Thrones religiously.
And they'll go to a Game of Thrones pop-up. They'll go to a Game of Thrones dress up. They'll go and do the Game of Thrones thing if it's Game of Thrones.
When the culture grabs something, if it's normalized, people do it. Like Halloween is it's an RPG day. It's a role playing. If you don't know what an RPG is, it's role playing. So
role playing game. RPG.
Halloween is it's the one day for Americans to say it's okay to be what I really want to be inside. Some girls want to be a slutty girl. They dress up like slutty, go to a party. So after
let me
Go ahead.
Wait, Bob
So
said
guys
what
wanna
you
be-
always wanted to be inside. That is not how
that is
you
not
think.
what I meant.
You go, well, how can I impress people
Well,
with my outfit?
but if when you really
Right.
think about that though, I think there's something to be said about people like when you dress up like a serial killer, dress up like it, or you want to be Jason for Halloween.
That's true. I never dress up like that. I never dress up
There's
like
something
that.
psychological. It doesn't mean you're a serial killer.
No.
It means that you have a little dark side of you that wants to be. You get to express your dark
Alter
side
ego.
on that day.
I agree.
You get to
I agree.
express
Yep,
an
yep.
alter ego. Most people are doing that. It's just why in most movies, that's the
It's
scary
because-
thing is like the actual killers come out during those times because they're free. Their masks are off. And that's scary.
Right.
So I'm sorry. So
Like-
that as we get into this could get crazy.
No,
but-
it's socially acceptable, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So Game of Thrones is socially acceptable. It's D&D on TV, right? And it started as political intrigue, but that's the genius of D&D because it started as political intrigue, and people were able to go. I almost feel like I'm watching a period piece, but it's a fantasy world, so I can relate. And the author slowly, I feel like that's the amazing thing about the way that story is written is it slowly wields the everyday person in, and then suddenly it's like, Here goes some dead people and some dragons and some magic. How
Is
about
this
that?
getting stronger to you guys?
Probably. But
Yeah.
so
I like really.
I guess
tasting
all I was
it.
gonna say is that now that Jon Snow's crews, I can't even think of all the names at this point with the Jack Daniels, but now that the crews come together, do you see the last episode when they walked out into the
Yeah,
snow?
that was awesome.
That was a D&D hunting
Seven
party.
Samurai. Yeah.
Oh, so you saw Seven? Okay, I can see. Seven Samurai. I saw it as like that's a D&D. That's a D&D travel party.
Yeah,
they're about to go into the dungeon.
Yes.
We are finally getting. We're getting dragons. We're getting dungeon crawling. We're getting all the final stuff with the political intrigue coming to a head.
We gotta
It's pretty amazing.
bring this in.
Right.
At some point. Yeah.
I think this is.
So-
I think then last time. I think this is.
Another level. What?
This is another level with
Yeah.
Nearest. Nearest took us to another level today.
That Southern
Shout-
Tennessee history
Shout out to
took
Nearest,
us to
you
another
know?
level. Shout out to Nearest. Shout out to Jack Daniels.
Like I'm going out after this episode. Like, I don't know what I'm
Learn
doing, but I'm
from
doing
the
something.
right.
I'm like Ratchet Trotter
Right.
has reached. I'm here now.
I'm ready for
Saying
the
too
alter
long. We're
ego.
still being gentle.
We're trying to be
man.
very gentle.
Don't want to rip off these tuxedos too quickly.
Right. Right. I'm gonna have to.
But
reel
you
it
know,
back.
speaking of fighting and speaking of being a savage,
Yeah.
what about that next week
Let's
though?
do it. So we're talking about Mayweather and McGregor. Right. That's the talk of the town right now. That's big. And whether you're from UFC or you're from boxing, like this is.
Is that next week?
So this coming weekend, right? Like Saturday, right? So we're not talking about like a boxing match. This is
For James
Right.
Williams, if you're watching.
this is a
Perfect.
spectacle, right? This is a spectacle.
It's not. I'm not going to watch a boxing match.
Right. The
It's
boxing,
WWE.
Yeah, WWE.
I wish Vince
boxing-
McMahon would like show up and say, "Let's get ready to rumble."
Right.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right. The boxing purists
This is gonna be a chair.
are not. This is the next boxing match, right?
Right.
This is almost a freak show, right? Of like Mayweather, McGregor.
Yeah.
Two very like very self-intrigued, very self-believing, like
Yeah.
it's almost psychotic.
They are both
Self-believing.
kind of-
I love
No,
that
they are,
statement.
yes.
Self-believing.
They're
Psychotic.
caricatures of
They
themselves.
are.
They truly are. I believe either whether behind closed doors they're alter egos.
Mhm.
They live those alter egos, but
Right.
those alter egos were created. They suddenly became them in the limelight. They turn that on when he comes out with the "fuck you"
Right.
a pinstripe
Mhm.
suit, McGregor. And
Do you think that's do you think that's real?
You think it's real?
The self, yeah, like the self.
I think that you do something long enough and you wake up one day and you, are
just-
that.
you
You
just
believe
can't-
it. And then you can't turn it
really
off.
turn it
I
off.
agree. I think
If you
they.
turn it off, it'll affect your business.
They
It'll affect
bel-
how people see you. Actually, more than business, personally, people won't see you the same way.
I think they believe that for a long time. I think in and of themselves.
Yeah.
Like McGregor, like he's come into his own. Like if you watch the interviews, you've seen him talk. He has a psychotic belief in himself, and so does Mayweather. But also, like Mayweather has never.
Mayweather's
met-
never lost.
And he has never lost, undefeated. But also, he has
Yeah,
never
it's not
met.
worth talking
he's-
about how
he is-
this is gonna go.
He has never met a McGregor before, though. McGregor is on a different level.
That's
in
true.
terms
He's
of-
usually fighting, calm.
right.
He's usually fighting an HBO mode. He's fighting a Mexican fighter who is completely opposite, comes from humble beginnings, right? Who's disciplined and is not about showboating. And it's a selling
Tell
tactic.
somebody that matches him.
And they basically go, look at this nice, good guy, and then look at this bad guy. And he's assumed the role of the bad guy. I've got all this money, and I don't care, but he trains well, and then and you come to go see, basically to see if the bad guy's going to lose.
But this is like having a shark in a tank, and you can't be having shark fights for the past 8 years, and this one shark has been killing everybody,
Right.
just fucking eating
Right,
everything.
right.
Then you say, you know what we want to see?
Put another
I want to put
shark.
a tiger in the shark tank, and I want to see if the tiger can beat the shark.
Yeah.
Now, the tiger's a beast, and the tiger can swim, but can it kill a shark in his own water? I don't know. That's what this.
I think
you
that's
throw
exactly
a
what it
tiger in the
is.
water,
It's not-
and he's got to do
it's
this,
not his own
and his
water,
little
though.
heart.
It's not his own water, though.
Really? What do you mean? McGregor's the tiger.
Right.
McGregor's the tiger.
But he's in the ring now, though. He's not in the octagon.
That's what he's
Yes,
saying.
and that's what I'm saying. This is a bad deal for him.
McGregor's gonna lose.
You think so?
Bro, he can't kick. When you put somebody, it's like me tying my hands behind your back.
I'm gonna say this is what I think is gonna happen.
A ring works completely different from an octagon.
I hope
It
that's
does.
not.
The way you box in a ring, you're controlling the person by those four corners.
I hope that this is not what it is, but I also hope.
I would love to see Mayweather get knocked out, but it's not gonna happen.
No, I don't want him to see him. I don't want to see Mayweather get knocked out because I actually think that I want to see him get knocked down. But I'd
at least like to see him fall.
I want to see him win. But I will say this.
But he is an amazing fighter.
I hope that this is not what it is, but I also hope that it is what it is.
Right.
I hope that it's a. This is a side of me. There's one method that goes, I hope this is completely staged. And I hope that it's a WWE match. I hope that. I hope when
Hogan shows up saying nigga, and it's like, oh no! Hulk Hogan shows up and he's like, calls Mayweather nigga in the middle of the match, and then McGregor calls him a boy, and then they start fighting, and then like the ring collapses. Somebody gets rock bottom, and like the ring folds in.
Oh my God. That's intense. What I was hoping that they're fighting the fight, right? McGregor is somewhat winning for some reason. No. Mayweather's winning. McGregor accidentally kicks him out of frustration, and then now there's this draw or something, or there's this kind of weird thing.
But I thought that from the beginning, that something's gonna happen here.
And then there's my other side that I think it's just going to be a stand-up fight. Nothing is going to happen, and Mayweather is going to win naturally the way he always wins with impeccable defense.
I think Zach sees this completely different from the way we both see it.
I think you have to see the different variables.
I want to see how you see this.
So Mayweather, he's coming out of retirement. Okay. He knows how to box 12 rounds, right? Like he knows that stamina,
His
right?
stamina is.
And some argue that MMA with McGregor is like more difficult than just we doing the song and dance.
It is more difficult, but it's not more difficult in other ways.
Stamina wise. So McGregor goes like hard, right? Mm-hmm. He's ready to go hard. He's said publicly. Like,
he's got to be ready to come out.
He said publicly, like, I'm going to come at you.
If he doesn't come out of the ring from jump, he's.
And Mayweather said, like, I'll come to you. I think that's a little bit smoke and mirrors.
Yeah, smoke and mirrors.
Mayweather will read you down, like as Joe Rogan said and Brendan Schaub, like he'll download your stats like within 4 to 5 rounds.
He's amazing.
He lets you come to him.
He's actually one of the best fighters ever.
I agree. So he's world champion, right? But like he will download your stats and let you come to him to read you, right? So like 4 or 5 rounds. Here's the interesting thing. McGregor says like I'm gonna knock you out in 4 rounds, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm gonna finish this fight in 4 rounds. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you believe that's true,
right?
I don't think that's going to happen necessarily.
He's going to try, though.
He's going to try. The interesting thing is, McGregor's never had necessarily a Mayweather. Mayweather's never had a McGregor. So it's.
But the problem is when you say even what you're saying. That's the problem. You're saying that Mayweather's never had a McGregor, but he's not gonna get the McGregor that he should get because McGregor can't go full. McGregor is actually tailoring himself to a completely different fight, which means he's never.
Actually, we can't have this conversation now.
He's gonna have a karate stance. No one's ever fought Mayweather with a karate stance, like fucking switching up shit.
But he can't do karate.
No, he can't. But here's the thing.
You're saying it would be weird.
And
it's going to be awkward.
And the reason I use a tiger. The reason I use a tiger as an example is that they said that's one of the only animals that it will destroy you, but you can outrun it if you're fast enough. Right. Because tigers' hearts pump so hard they run out of stamina really quickly. Can he go 12 rounds with Mayweather just ducking and dodging and backing and moving and making him miss and getting him frustrated and just
But here's the thing. But if you watch McGregor, right?
Okay.
You know he's not going to be so.
He's going to be coming at him. Mayweather moves.
No, we know.
He's had people just go full force and he just dodges.
But okay, so McGregor, we agree, is going to come to him, right?
And I would hope that he would.
And I think that here are the facts, right? Mayweather, he's been out of retirement.
Tell me,
for
Sway.
a bit,
Talk
right?
to me, Sway.
Um,
Let's see if you got the answer.
okay, he's had.
Are we gonna go into this full conversation?
No, we are. We are right now.
Okay.
We are.
Okay.
This is worth it. Whoever's watching this is gonna be.
He's
know
had
what? We're going
a
on.
few surgeries on his hand.
Okay.
Right? They're
Really?
fighting in 8-ounce gloves, right?
Mm.
Here's what I think. Honestly, this is the way it could go. He's fighting in 8-ounce gloves.
Okay.
He's had some surgeries to his hand. I know McGregor's poked fun at this. He's like, "Oh, your old hands, right? Your old hands." But here's the worst case scenario.
Okay.
He actually lands a punch on McGregor,
But hurts his hand.
but hurts his hand.
Okay, that is possible.
Here's
or
what,
on an elbow.
So here's
You can punch on an elbow on accident and break.
it
shatter
lands it
his face.
anywhere, right? But he injures his hand.
Okay.
He's done. He's done. McGregor is going to take full advantage. He's used to fighting
Okay.
without that extra,
But is
padding,
he
right?
used to fighting with that extra padding? Does that extra padding add an extra weight?
Here, okay, you can make that
All
argument.
I'm gonna say is that I would say I think you're a McGregor
Mhm.
fan, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's amazing because he's a good chap. But let's not downplay who Mayweather is, and and what I think where I think you're wrong in your idea.
I need to stop you though.
Yeah.
I'm not McGregor. I don't know who's gonna win the fight. It's a freak show though.
Yeah, it is.
No, it is. It's a complete
I just think
Frankenstein of a.
What I'm saying is either.
It's
I would say that
is-
Mayweather has the edge.
I almost don't feel like I should give
okay.
it my but I can't.
The only
help it.
reason I would say
I can't
Mayweather
help
has the
it.
edge. It's the only reason.
Alright.
The only
That's
reason.
why, he's got the edge.
I would say even if it was by 1%, he's got the edge. I understand that even the switching, even the stance may be weird and it may throw Mayweather off. It may get him a punch landed on accident,
Mhm.
because Mayweather may be thrown off. But what I will say is that stand-up fighters, which McGregor's kind of a stand-up fighter, he knows how to do all those stuff, but he's a stand-up fighter. A lot of stand-up fighters in MMA and UFC, stand-up fighting is boxing.
Yeah.
Okay, so to say that he, I think fighting a guy like McGregor is going to be very much in his element. He's fight the Maidana. He's fought guys that punch over the back of the head, I mean, let me not take anything from Maidana. Maidana did his at best. I think actually Cotto did the best at the best to Mayweather. If you actually look at Mayweather in that fight, Cotto actually bruised Mayweather and had his Mayweather's nose was bleeding somewhat. He'd actually tagged him quite a bit. I thought Cotto did the best that I've ever seen anybody do against Mayweather, but Mayweather still won, and he should have. But I will say that he has seen the McGregors because he's had people come at him softly. He's seen people come at him hard. Seen people try to read him in a neutral stance, and he's beat them all. So that being said, I would say the only thing McGregor has on him is, which you were noting, is his footwork. If McGregor has great footwork in the match,
Which he will.
Which he will,
He's trained it.
and does not, and always remembers to not use his footwork in a weird way that may have him dock points. I don't think he's going to kick, but I think he may have twitches and things that may be weird that either may. There's either two things that'll happen. Either one, it'll affect McGregor, or two, it'll affect Mayweather.
Here's the thing.
Because if he shifts a weird and Mayweather goes, "Is that a knee coming?" and he gets hit, that'll be good too for McGregor.
I think in a clinch, McGregor has the advantage. I think in a clinch, if they grab each other, McGregor's gonna hit him. No, he's gonna grapple him, and he's gonna I think that.
Huh.
I think that's the scenario that McGregor's
The grappling, because Mayweather does like to grapple. He likes to rest.
He does.
He rests
So you
well.
think that McGregor's gonna take advantage of it and make the grapples?
I think
make
so.
him feel the
I think so.
Wear him down in the grapple.
I
Oh,
think so.
he would cheat the grapple. It wouldn't be cheating, but he would take advantage of the grapple.
He would know how to grapple. When most boxers grapple to rest,
right.
He'd be grappling.
He'd be grappling
in
to
a way
take
that
to steal.
I can't breathe.
He would steal his energy before the referee.
Very good. Very good.
I think
good stuff. That's good stuff. Good job, James. James, we need you on the show.
I think a couple things. I think
I asked him when James said, I don't show my face.
Brett,
I'll show my face.
I think-
That's how you say you want to go.
I think
Go, come on.
Mayweather's may injure his hand, and at which
Okay.
point he's. I
That's
think
a lot of May.
No, I know.
With the Mayweather.
Mayweather.
You hoping for the?
No,
You hoping for the Rocky?
I'm giving you two scenarios right here.
Okay.
Listen to me. So he may. let me, motherfucker. All right, look. He may injure his hand,
And
right?
he's beating a lot of Mexicans. Oh, stop it! Let's stop it.
You know what? Right now, no.
Hit me.
Tell me, no.
No, weird.
Look,
Hit
look,
me.
McGregor has a big ass head, man.
No,
his
he's
head is hard. His head is hard.
Yes.
If with 8-ounce gloves,
Yeah.
if Mayweather really does land
Yeah.
a punch on him, which I think he will, right?
Yeah.
He won't.
I think-
He'll tag him.
Like, okay.
He's gonna.
I don't think he's gonna
Okay,
knock him out.
Okay,
ever.
no. He won't knock him out. I think, like, McGregor is taking a bigger beating. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But like,
Yeah, so
if he lands a punch,
True.
I think it'll do more damage. It will 100% do more
Damage
damage
to
to hands
Mayweather
than it will McGregor.
What I worry about is
How is this
just
episode gonna end? Is it
McGregor
just gonna
not
fade
being
out to black?
tired. Yeah. So
I don't think it'll go 12 rounds like without some sort of injury or some sort of like controversy.
Yeah.
I think that McGregor's best chance at winning this fight is like Mayweather has honestly, either of them has never fought the other opponent, like in the sense that
No, they
McGregor
haven't.
has never fought a Mayweather. Mayweather has never
Nope.
fought a McGregor.
This is true. At the end of
Yeah.
the day,
And
that's
so
true.
we can speculate all we want.
I can't help but say this, and I feel like since we also like before we ended is like it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but since we've brought up, we started the episode with like culture and
No.
ethnicity. I think it's interesting that we are watching this fight with McGregor. These both guys, they're you said very boisterous, very kind of flashy characters in themselves, and they kind of represent almost stereotypes in a way. And I think it's just I just think it's interesting.
It's like WWE.
I think it's interesting that McGregor's an Irish.
There's a lot of pride.
And a lot of pride in that. And there's a lot of pride in. And let's not say it's not just me saying this because even people were kind of pulling the strings like, oh, is McGregor calling him a boy? But it's interesting that like and I don't think that was not what was happening. But it's just interesting we're watching these two guys fight and culturally, black people have kind of the same kind of thing. And he's the top of his game. He's the top of his game. And interesting, they were both of these cultures were. The Irish were the originals. They were the first slaves, and before blacks. So it's kind of interesting.
That's a good point.
Both considered like cultures that were under, and so
So you're
both
seeing
underdogs.
two
Two people from that same kind of like that same class. Even though I'm sure between each other they both see each other as rivals a lot. I think I can't help but think that I'm sure that. When people unfortunately we still live in a time where people go into fights where even back in the day when guys used to fight like this, people who rowdy who got behind a fighter, that I'm sure there's a lot of Irish who are like, I'm behind McGregor.
Oh,
I'm behind.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a lot to
And
say
that's gonna be-
next
it's gonna be
week. I don't
interesting.
have
I
anything
will
to
too.
say. I'm done.
Here's the thing. I think at the end of the day,
Yeah, you get the last word.
like we don't know what's gonna happen.
We
Right?
don't know
None of
what's
us.
happening.
We can speculate all day.
Mhm.
I think it's a freak show at the end of the day. It's not necessarily a boxing match, right? It's like a spectacle.
It'd be amazing if it does become a box.
And so it's gonna be
crow.
no matter what, it's gonna be the greatest pay-per-view buy of all time.
Yeah.
Right. It's a huge.
We'll see.
You don't think so?
We'll see. I don't want to keep arguing.
Oh no! It's gonna be the.
Oh no, it will be the greatest in terms
Yes.
of like the amount of money that they make off
Yeah,
of it.
no,
I just hope it will be
viewership.
fulfilling. Viewership. I hope it's fulfilling. We always pay for these.
It probably won't be
Right,
fulfilled.
We were hoping that we were gonna get that with
It probably
Pacquiao
won't be fulfilling.
Mayweather fight. We hope. That's what I'm saying with all the Hulk Hogan stuff. I'm joking, but I'm just hoping it's actually fulfilling. I hope I see
agree.
something
I agree.
good.
All right, let's let Zach.
I
wrap
think
it up.
no matter what, it's going to be interesting, right? Like the purest boxers are feeling a little bit of indifference towards it. Like they're like, it's not necessarily great for the future of boxing. It's not a fair representative picture of boxing, right?
Right. No,
But it may be.
But okay, maybe.
If
Either
it
way,
goes well.
Mayweather is going to, I think after this fight, he's maybe done, right?
Done for
Right,
ever.
right. And so McGregor, this is the fight of his life, though. This is the fight of his life. This is put him as the ultimate
right.
athlete.
He could take so much away from this.
globally, right?
True.
And so
Okay.
I think no matter what, it's going to be interesting. I just love the dichotomy. Like
Yeah.
I love seeing like like this world versus this world, right?
Can I just say, quote something of Joe Budden?
Please.
Joe Budden said, "This is a moment in my lifetime. This is your moment of a lifetime." And that's exactly
wow.
what McGregor.
This is a moment, yeah.
This
So
is
that's made me think about because I'm gonna be real quick, but a lot of people kind of see this as a cash cow for both of them. They both get to just retire no matter what happens. But you're right. Like McGregor could really sit down for the rest of his life and be like, I'm the guy that did that.
100 million. 100 million.
And not only did I get the money, but I did.
I did it.
Right.
Right. So you're right. 100%.
That's a lot on the line. Okay. Well,
I say we cheers to that and finish these
cheers
drinks.
to that.
To that.
Let's go
may the
out
best
after
man
this.
win, right?
Yes, may the best man win. I'm going for Mayweather.
Look, we're all in this together. We're gonna see how it goes. I think speculating or not, like it's gonna be fun. I think we should just enjoy it for the spectacle that it is. Man, it's gonna be
Tune
fun.
into the next Gentleman Geek. We're gonna be doing these bi-weekly. We're gonna post these this week. So cheers to you guys. Thank you for watching. I know it's a long little session, but we have fun. Do you guys want to tell people where they can find you or anything like that? Give a little plug or real quick.
Oh, you can find me on Instagram at the Architect.
Yep, it's with a K, right? Though. Architect
Yeah.
with a K.
Oh, yeah. We'd have to put it on the screen.
Yeah, we could. Me and Zach work.
can.
We can put the whole tags everywhere
Yeah.
else, but
And then-
we'll be here on Gentleman Geek.
Yep, we'll be at Gentleman Geek. Zach Garcia, Malcolm at the Run Rally. Thanks,
Pleasure.
guys.
Hey, man. We should start a handshake.